The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Hello and welcome to the American Veteran. I'm Dale Parrish, your host. My co-host is Bud Mendenhall. Our guest today is Dick Renbarger, a 27-year Marine, and with us today also is Marilyn Renbarger. Bud, do you know anybody that put in 27 years with the Marines or any other branch of the service? I think they deserve our respect.
Oh, I don't know anybody 27 years except Dick, and I think he'd be the only type of guy that could handle that besides being a policeman.
Yeah.
31 years.
31 years, sure.
31 years.
And
Well, thank you for your service, not only for the country, but for the community. Dick, when did you go into the Marines?
I went in May the 10th, 1950. A lot of us high school kids went in then, and we kind of took advantage of the trousers. We had the big cargo pockets and the one that went across the back.
Yeah.
Well, we wore them trousers at school, put our books in there, and we made a nice way through the crowd in the hallway at north side. And the 14th of August, about 50 of us was told to report to the training center. And they put us on duty right away so that the older ones could still stay at the factories or wherever they was working to get money for their families before we left. We packed up the baggage cars behind the training center. They put the 2 baggage cars there. We took everything out of there. And we had guard duty on top of that to make sure nobody come and got anything. In fact, we had some antique equipment. I don't know whether you had ever seen them or not, you was in the Army. We even had machine gun carts. You strapped the machine gun in the little cart, had 2 bicycle wheels with a T-handle with a gunner and assistant gunner ran with them. Them was back in the 1900s, but we still had them. It was things like that. And we went to the Memorial Tap in our noon time. Gunny Bates would march us down there. And at that time, Indiana had a law that says you could drink legally as long as you was in uniform, regardless of age. Well, us 17-year-olds took advantage of that. We washed our lunch down with beer before we went back to the training center. We finally all mustered on the 25th, crossing the training center. I have pictures here of the unit leaving. And we marched down Berry Street, and we also have a film, a short one, which probably is the only one in existence that I know of. The unit marched all the way down Berry Street to Calhoun to the Nickel Plate. And we boarded the train, and then the funny part, we stopped at every town, along with other military trains. And the sergeants would get out to make sure us young ones wasn't going to jump the train. Well, we wasn't going to jump. We was hot, trotting, ready to go. So they'd see a buddy they was with on the canal or Tarawa. They'd go over there and chew the fat with them. And then when we got into Pendleton, it was a screwed up thing. 100 and some or more, about 200 units, all got in there in August. And things are screwed up. My uncle was a chief gunner's mate in the Navy, stationed at San Diego. He waited a day before he come to Camp Pendleton to find me. He came in his uniform in case they gave me in trouble. He says, "What can we do for you, Chief?" He says, "Well, I'd like to see my nephew." He says, "What outfit's he in?" "Company B, 18th Infantry." They got the checking around. "We ain't got no Company B, 18th Infantry, Chief." 225 guys there, they didn't even know they had them. So then one day, they decided that they was going to put us in new barracks. We was in 15B6 then. And that morning we packed up all of our gear, went down to the Dust Bowl by the old outside stockade and PX. Sat out there till about 5 o'clock in the sun and that. They finally got to Company B. Guess what our barracks was? 15B6, the same one we left that morning. They were things like that. Screwed things up. So I ended up in the 7th Marines and got sold and got pulled out and sent back. They found out I was in illegally. My dad and mother had divorced, but my real mother didn't care to see me except on my birthday and Christmas. And of course, she hated my dad and my stepmother. My stepmother's had me since I was 2. She signed the papers. She had not legally adopted me.
Signed the papers to go into the military.
Yeah. So, mother sued my stepmother and dad and sued the Marine Corps. So they bring me back, and they sent me down to recruit depot, and they looked at my record book. I hadn't been to boot camp yet, so yeah, we'll send you there to see what we're going to do with you. Well, I had told the senior DI that I wanted to stay in, and he was a gunny that made Guadalcanal carrying an 03 because they didn't have enough M1s in the first wave. He was that old. So some captain called me into his office, and I assume he was a legal officer. And he says, "I understand from your senior DI you want to stay." I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Well, we're not pulling you out of boot camp. You're staying. And by the time we get done screwing around with you, by the time we get you back to Fort Wayne, which would be March next year, it ain't going to make no difference because you're going to be 18.
Yeah.
So from boot camp, everybody got leave, but there were 7 of us straight to sea school at the other end of the parade field in San Diego. So I was there, went through there for school, was there for a little bit afterwards. Everybody else got transferred to their ship. Then they sent me down to the destroyer base at San Diego. I stayed there for a while. Then they sent me to Treasure Island, the guard detachment. Well, accidentally, I ran across at a bar in San Francisco some of the Marines from the Helena. Well, they pulled a kid out of the guard detachment, hadn't been to sea school, and put him aboard the Helena. I went into the first sergeant and raised Cain about it, and I said, "You can see the mast of the Helena outside your window top." He says, "I got to send you to Long Beach." I said, "Thanks." So I went to Long Beach. On my birthday, I went aboard the Helena. Pulled the gangplank up, and we were headed for Hawaii. And I was immediately assigned to Admiral Libby as his orderly. And Libby says, "Well, hope you think this ship's worth running up and down the coast for a month because of you." "I don't know what you're talking about, sir." He says, "You turned 18 today, didn't you?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he says, "Well, we couldn't take you aboard until you was 18. I said, "Sir, I was in Korea when I was 17. Shortly thereafter, he made me a corporal.
Back to football field.
And
The football field when you're called.
when you
Oh, yeah, Dad
yeah.
come on the football field and notified me that I was wanted at the training center.
Oh.
See, these indefinite enlistments, it was run like I said earlier, like a club. You had 6 months and you want to get out. The company commander had the power. That's why they had an indefinite enlistments. After we came back, everybody's indefinite enlistments was changed to a definite date. And they did not pay attention to our enlistment dates. They went by the date of the letter. So my enlistment date was February. My real enlistment date is May. So that's kind of screwed things up. They had to put a little peg on because you're supposed to audit your record book on your anniversary date.
Didn't they pull you out of the high school?
Yes, about 50 of us was pulled
I see.
out. And then when I was released, after we come back from Korea, in Helena, I went back to high school at Bryan, Indiana, south of here. My folks had moved to Bryan and took over my grandparents' family home, which is my third time at Bryant. I went there 2 other times in grade school when I was living with my grandparents. And I graduated because I knew you're going to have a high school diploma to get any place.
How was your experience aboard the Helena, aboard ship? You enjoy that, or?
Oh, yeah, except for having to wear blues all half the time. We were hit 3 times of sky control after turret 3, and one of the 40 pedals mounts got hit with 155 artillery pieces.
That's a heavy cruiser.
Yes, the Helena was Cruiser Division 3. The LA and the Toledo was in that division, and the Helena was the flagship.
Yeah. So where was you at when you got hit?
I was with the Admiral in his cabin.
No, I meant not you personally, but where was the ship at? Was it
In Korea.
in
On
the east?
Wonsan side.
Yeah. Okay.
We was in Task Force 77.
Okay. Because I think they used cruisers when they made the landing in Incheon too, didn't they?
The Helena was there then.
Oh, was it? Because I think there was one got hit then.
Helena didn't get hit then.
No, but there was one that got hit, but it pulled out of there on its own power
Now,
before the tide went out.
The Essex caught a fire because of a Banshee plane. Came in, waved a wave off, came in like that. And of course, everybody's at general quarters when you take your planes in. And the thing caught a fire and broke off where you could normally move the tail section to get at the engine. And the tail section's on fire, caught all the gunners on 40 mounts underneath the deck. And they went in, hit the superstructure, and somehow she lost control. And everybody was going in 40 different directions.
Oh,
All of a sudden, bong, 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 bong. The Admiral said, "What the hell is that?" And I said, "I don't know, I'll look." And I said, "Sir, the Essex is on fire." So we went alongside, tried to help put out the fire, and there was a Banshee sitting sideways on the deck. Fire had got to her, started cooking her 40 and 20s off, and going between the stacks. Admiral Libby says, "Cut the lines, let her burn." Some sailor with a tractor thing shoved her off the side.
I didn't know Marines was assigned to a ship as such.
They're not no more. There was 48 Marines on the Helena, plus a 7 flag. We went wherever the Admiral went. When we got into Yokosuka, I drove him to Tokyo to talk to the big brass, and then I bring him back.
What kind of guns did the Helena have?
He had 8-inch main batteries, 5-inch, 40s and 20s. And when we came back this time after I left her, the 20s was pulled off, the 40s was pulled off, but they was replaced with automatic 3-inch 50s. There were no, You wasn't going to hit a jet with a 20 anyhow.
Yeah.
But we fired at them
Yeah, we fired him when we were with the sheriff.
when the jets came. Admiral Libby, in fact, wouldn't let me on a gun anymore. Me and the captain's orderly was on the forecastle guns. They were twin 20s. And one MiG come over the top of the superstructure in Wonsan Harbor. We're both like this, firing over superstructure. They went off the port side, and I'm firing over Hughes's head like this. Libby gets on the phone, get them cams back on them guns. I don't care about you two shooting over each other's heads, but you ain't shooting over mine. We took the cams off.
Yeah.
You could train them guns 360 degrees and straight up.
Yeah.
So he would never let me back on a gun after that. When General Quarters went and that, I was one pace behind him.
I think the Helena was the third Helena, the third ship called.
Yes.
named
The first one was sunk off in Guadalcanal. That was a 50. It was a light cruiser. The first one was a gunboat in the Yangtze in China.
Oh yeah, huh?
And the fourth one is the attack submarine that's on duty now. As far as I know, she's still on duty.
Did all the Marines stay in one quarters separate from the sailors?
Yes. We had our own quarters. In fact, we even had our own press. Now, there was a little trouble that the sailors didn't like. You remember certain messes you sailors had? Well, the staff NCOs, which isn't the same rank as a chief, slept in the chief's quarters,
Oh.
ate in the chief's mess. Corporals and sergeants ate in the first class mess. And that didn't go over too good. But the rest of the people ate right along with the sailors.
Yeah.
And then we had sentries, the regular detachment would guard when we were in port, would guard the gangways.
How long was you on the Helena?
A year.
A year. Where all did you go in them 27 years?
Well, after we came back, the first summer camp we went to was Paris Island. And then we went to Lejeune, Little Creek, Hawthorne, Nevada, Pico Menos for mountain training, San Diego Recruit Depot for communications. A long time ago, that was a signal battalion. Was there? You could tell them when I was in boot camp, the heel plates and toe plates on. You could hear them
Yeah.
when they marched. But we've had weekday drills. Well, you actually wasn't getting much done. You mustered at 7:30. By the time that took about 10 minutes. Then you went to class. You had a 10-minute break. And then it was supposed to be a 2-hour deal. Then you stopped about 10 minutes before muster. So you can see there you didn't get much done. So that's why they went to the weekend drills. They went all day Saturday and all day Sunday. And you got paid 4 days for them days.
You mentioned at one time, I think you were like what we call shore patrol. You check the sailors as they come offshore.
Yeah, that was Long Beach. I was Corporal of the Guard my last few months on active duty. And the sailors would come in, and I'd take my nightstick and tap their bell bottoms. I hear the click, click. Put the bottle on the desk, or I lock the hands.
Yeah.
And I never had to buy any booze. In fact, we had a Mustang officer, captain, and was in charge of the guard detachment, come up through the ranks. And he had an IG inspection. Well, he knew I had 2 wall lockers. And he knew what was in the one. He knew what I was doing. And I told him, I says, I can't stand the inspection, Captain. Why? You know why. I got 2 lockers. Get in the Jeep and go uptown. You're now on town patrol. I said, yes, sir. As long as you're doing duty, you don't have to stand inspection.
Now, when you was in Korea, you was at the 1st Division.
Yes.
Okay, now what happened when they put you on the Helena? Is the division split up then?
No,
I mean, some of them on the ship and some of them
it's-
someplace else?
No, the division is separate from seagoing.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Seagoing is a separate unit. It's like I told you after boot camp,
Yeah.
I went to sea school. Most everybody else went to advanced infantry training at Pendleton. And then they was assigned the divisions. The seagoing are a separate unit. They are dissolved now. There was about 70 some on a carrier.
Marines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were the guards of the ship. Anytime we walked around with the admirals, the captain of the ship, the executive officer of the ship, the admiral, and the chief of staff, which normally was a captain, had us follow them around. Nobody seen them, but they went through us. And we were armed, even at sea. We carried 45s. In fact, I've had officers, naval officers, that come in wanting to see the admiral. I'd ask the admiral, I said, you want to see Commander so-and-so? And the admiral didn't want to see anybody. He says, I don't want to see him, Sandy. I had Sandy here, and he always come and see him. And went out and tell him, outside the cabin, he says, the admiral don't want to see you, Commander. So we had that power. We let him in if the admiral wanted. And we took messages. He would deliver messages unless the admiral had to see the message. We'd take the messages into the cabin to him.
Did they have a brig aboard the ship that
Yes.
big? Did they?
That was the regular detachment's job, guarding the brig. They also operated the 40s and 20s.
They operated the 40s and 20s. They didn't have gunners.
Sailors
mates?
operated the 8-inch and the 5-inch. We operated the 40s and the 20s.
What did it take to visit the brig? What'd you have to do to get through the brig?
Step out of line. Come in late or when we was at port. And they'd have office hours with the skipper. He'd decide whether to find them or send them on the base in the brig. And it depends on what the charge was.
Even troop ships had a brig.
And then we'd take them.
Wasn't any part of it.
Now, the regular
know
detachment
that.
would take these sailors in. You had, besides the division, you had Marines that wasn't assigned to the 1st Division, 2nd or 3rd. And they visit naval bases. Don't have that no more. They're pulled. But that wasn't a job of the Marine. It was a separate unit.
The naval bases didn't have brigs?
Yeah,
They did.
we operated them.
Yeah, I was
Marines
going to
operated
say, if I remember right,
But
the Marines
now,
operated them.
them's been pulled, and the Navy has a new rank since you got out. Remember, you called them Master at Arms,
Sure. Hmm.
and they wore a little thing.
Yeah.
Well, now they have a badge,
Badge.
and that is a rank, Master at Arms. Remember, it's all boatswain's mates in your day.
Right. They were all boatswain mates.
Well, now that's a rank in the Navy. It's like the MPs in the Marine Corps.
We belong to the Helena organization,
Oh, do
and
you?
the shipmates that served on all the Helenas get together, and it's really a great group. And we got to meet the sailors who are now on the Helena, which is the submarine,
Yeah.
and they're so young. You know, you look, you have to think. At one time, you were that young, but they're nice kids and so very young.
I know you go to the doctor and what's that kid doing in there?
That's right. That is true. Yeah.
I just wonder what the average age would have been in the Korean War. Because so many young ones, you know, when
Oh,
you
I
got
don't
pulled out
know.
of high school, he's 17 years old and had to go.
I would say 19 at least.
19?
Oh, I'd say so.
Yeah.
Well, the lieutenant was in our outfit. He came back and wrote about the 17-year-olds getting jerked out of school. And the AP picked it up. I seen that man's record book. There's a page in there. This man's not to be promoted by authority of the Commandant of the Marine Corps. You do not chastise the officers' corps if you plan on making yourself an officer. And he
No.
did. But he got it done what he wanted to do. There'll be no more 17-year-olds signing up.
Oh, is that right?
You mean now? It's,
Even
Well,
in the reserve units.
another thing that's interesting, he was sent to Korea and he hadn't been to basic training yet. So that
There was a lot of them happened.
that was
That's when you went. You didn't go through basic training. You were sent there,
Afterwards.
right? Yeah.
had basic training afterwards.
Afterwards.
I thought they forgot you. It was a little.
No, I snuck
Several
in.
weeks before I took
He
it.
had divided into 3 groups, and a lot of the 17-year-olds snuck into the go-go bunch.
Oh, yeah. 'Cause it was several weeks. I was in the service before I took basic training. I thought, well,
Is
they
that right?
forgot me.
Is that right?
That's fine, yeah.
Oh,
They sent me right to my unit that I signed up for. Until they had enough for basic training.
Yeah, that one time at the rifle range, I fired 240 out of 250. That got me into trouble in '68 when we had the riots here. We had no snipers. So they want that. Gephardt was the captain then. He made me stay with him because of that. Made me a sniper for the department.
Well, Dick, we're out of time.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for being here, you and Marilyn both. And Bud, thank you for being here again. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the program, be sure to watch us Friday evenings at 7:30. And remember, freedom is not free. Good night.